Welcome to another deep dive. And today we're taking a look at something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction,
Yeah,
but it's becoming a reality more and more every day.
for sure.
Asteroid mining. And more specifically,
Right.
the economics of asteroid mining.
The economics of it.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at a chapter from a book.
Okay.
That's chapter 25.
All right.
It lays out
Cool.
all the financial realities of this.
Yeah.
Really interesting potential industry.
It's fascinating.
Like, is it actually possible to make money
Yeah.
digging up asteroids?
Big question.
Yeah, so we'll be exploring the costs, the profits, and even the risks
Lots of risks.
of turning
Right.
space rocks into cold, hard cash.
It's a big undertaking for sure.
Yeah. But before we get into the whole
Yeah.
finance side of things,
Sure.
let's just quickly go over
Okay.
what asteroid mining actually is.
Yeah. So at the most basic level,
Yeah.
asteroid mining is about sending spacecraft out to asteroids. These are giant rocks that are just hurtling through space, and we're sending them out to extract valuable resources.
Okay, so what kind of resources?
Well, we're talking about things like rare earth metals,
Okay.
like platinum, iridium, things like that, and also volatiles, things like water.
Water.
Look,
Really?
water is incredibly valuable in space
Okay.
for space travel and life support.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Okay, so we're sending out these robotic miners
Yeah.
to grab a chunk of space and bring us back the good stuff.
Right.
Seems simple enough.
Well,
I'm guessing
it's
it-
not quite that
A
simple.
little more complicated than that.
Yeah. One of the biggest things is the cost,
Okay.
the sheer cost of this whole operation.
Yeah. How do we even begin to?
Well, our source breaks it down into three main cost categories:
Okay.
exploration, extraction, and transportation.
Okay, let's break those down
Right.
one by one.
Let's do it.
Starting with exploration,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of expenses are we talking about there?
Well, you have to think about it. We need spacecraft that can travel millions of miles.
Right.
We have to launch those into space.
That's got to be expensive just in itself.
Oh, it's incredibly expensive.
Right.
And then we have to equip them with all this technology
Oh.
that can scout and map and analyze asteroids
Wow.
to find the best ones to mine.
It's a massive undertaking.
It really is.
It's more than just building a tough spaceship.
It's like launching a high-tech prospecting mission
Yeah.
across the solar system.
What kind of price tag are we talking about for just that initial exploration phase?
Well, launching a single spacecraft can cost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow.
And that's before you even find an asteroid worth mining.
Oh, wow.
And you might need multiple missions to find the right one.
Okay, so those are some serious upfront costs.
For sure.
Okay, let's say we found the perfect asteroid.
Okay.
What happens next?
Well, that takes us to extraction.
Okay.
That's the next big hurdle.
Uh-huh.
And this is where we rely on some amazing robots. These robots have to operate in the harsh conditions of space.
Right.
They have to be able to drill and excavate.
In processed material,
To
then.
process material.
All millions of miles away.
Trillions of miles away with no human help.
It's like sending a construction crew to space.
It really is.
But the workers are robots.
And they have to be able to think for themselves.
Yeah.
Solve their own problems.
Right, and robots need energy.
Exactly.
You can't just plug them into the wall out in space.
No, you can't.
So how do they get their energy?
Solar power might not be enough.
Yeah.
We might need nuclear reactors or other creative energy solutions,
Wow.
which adds to the cost and the complexity.
Okay, so we found our asteroid.
Okay.
We sent out our robot miners.
Yes.
They've successfully extracted all these valuable resources.
Mhm.
Now we just got to bring the loot back home.
Right.
Piece of cake?
Well,
Not so much. Not quite.
okay.
That's where transportation comes in.
All right.
And that's where the costs really start to...
Skyrocket, yeah.
Okay.
We need fuel for the return trip.
Uh-huh.
We have to think about gravity
Of other planets and...
of planets and other celestial bodies.
Right.
And we might even need to set up orbital depots or space stations
Wow.
to process and store the materials before they come back to Earth.
It's like setting up an interplanetary shipping route.
Yeah, it's a huge logistical challenge.
It doesn't sound cheap.
It's not cheap at all.
So the source is saying that transportation could end up being one of the most expensive parts.
It very well could be.
What?
It's not like we can just hire a space Uber to bring back tons of platinum.
Yeah, no
You're
kidding.
talking about specialized spacecraft,
Right.
potentially building infrastructure in space,
Right.
and making sure that incredibly valuable cargo gets back to Earth safely.
All right. I think we've established that starting an asteroid mining operation is going to take a lot of money.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about the potential rewards.
Of course not.
There's a reason we're even considering this.
Right.
Turning space rocks into a profit.
That's the dream.
So that's what we'll explore next.
Sounds good.
The potential revenue.
All right.
Buckle up.
Let's do it.
Because it's about to get interesting.
It is.
All right, so we've talked about the massive upfront costs.
Yeah.
But now let's get to the fun part.
Right.
Potential payoff.
Exactly.
What kind of riches are we hoping to dig up from these asteroids?
Well, asteroids are like treasure chests, full of valuable resources. The source talks about two main categories. Rare earth metals and volatile compounds.
Your earth metals, I get.
Yeah.
Those are used in all sorts of high-tech stuff here on Earth.
Right.
But volatile compounds?
Yeah.
That sounds kind of less exciting.
We'll think water.
Water?
Yeah, hydrogen, oxygen.
Okay.
On Earth, we take these for granted.
Sure.
But in space, they're incredibly valuable.
Oh, okay.
Water can be broken down into hydrogen and oxygen, key ingredients for rocket fuel.
So instead of hauling fuel all the way from Earth,
Exactly.
we could create refueling stations in space.
Yeah.
Using resources mined from asteroids.
That's the idea.
That's brilliant.
It would make space travel so much more efficient.
Right.
And affordable. And it goes beyond just fuel.
Okay.
We could use these resources to build space stations, habitats, and other infrastructure.
So it's more sustainable.
Exactly. Creating a more sustainable presence in space.
So we're not just mining resources.
Right.
We're building the foundation for a whole new space-based economy.
I like the way you think.
So who are the potential customers for all this space treasure?
Good question.
Is it just us Earthlings?
Well,
eager for the next smartphone upgrade?
There are two main markets.
Okay.
Terrestrial and in space.
Okay, so terrestrial means?
Bringing resources back to Earth.
Okay.
To supply our industries. And maybe even drive down the cost of materials that are becoming scarce.
Like what?
Like electronics, manufacturing, even green energy technologies.
So we could solve supply chain issues here on Earth.
Potentially.
While building a future in space at the same time.
That's the hope.
That's amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
Let's talk about who's actually funding all of this.
Okay,
Who's paying for these asteroid mining ventures?
It's not just billionaires with a space obsession.
Okay, good.
Though some of them are interested.
Sure.
The source highlights private investors, government agencies, and public-private partnerships.
So it's a mix of venture capitalists hoping to strike it rich in space.
Some of them.
Government agencies pushing the boundaries of exploration.
For sure.
And collaborations that bring together the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
I could see how that would create a really competitive environment.
It definitely does.
So each player has different motivations.
Different motivations.
And different levels of risk they're willing to take.
Exactly. Venture capitalists want a return on their investment.
Of course.
Governments are more interested in scientific advancement.
Makes sense.
And public-private partnerships try to find a balance.
Yeah, find that sweet spot.
Right, using government resources and expertise with the efficiency of the private sector.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
It's a fascinating mix of motivations.
It sounds like a lot of people are betting big on the future of asteroid mining.
They are.
But before we get too carried away with space dreams, let's talk about something a little more down to earth.
Right.
Return on investment.
The bottom line.
How do we know if any of this will actually be profitable?
Well, that's where some key financial concepts come in.
Okay.
The source talks about break-even analysis, net present value, and internal rate of return.
Okay, time for a quick economics lesson.
Right.
Break-even analysis is figuring out when you start making more money than you've spent, right?
Exactly. It's figuring out how long it takes for a project to become profitable.
Okay.
NPV is a little more complex. It takes into account the time value of money.
Meaning?
Meaning that $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow.
Right.
So it helps assess the overall profitability for a project over its entire life.
So it's about the long game.
It is.
Not just a quick buck.
Exactly.
Building a sustainable business.
Sustainable business model, yeah.
And IRR.
IRR helps us compare different investment opportunities.
So which space venture gives you the biggest bang for your buck?
Exactly.
So we're using the same financial tools as any other investment.
The same tools.
Just on a much grander scale.
A cosmic scale.
But let's be realistic.
Right.
Even with all this potential for profit, asteroid mining is still risky, right?
Absolutely. It's a high-risk endeavor.
So the source goes into some of the potential problems.
It does.
What could go wrong?
Well, there are three main categories of risk. Technical, economic, and legal and regulatory.
Okay, so let's unpack those risks one by one.
Sounds good.
Starting with the technical challenges.
All right.
What could go wrong millions of miles from Earth?
A lot can go wrong.
A lot can go wrong millions of miles away from Earth. Give me some examples.
Well, the source really stresses reliability
Okay.
and redundancy.
When it comes to...
Spacecraft and mining equipment.
Okay, so like backups and backups for the backups.
Exactly. These systems have to be able to withstand
Yeah.
extreme temperatures,
Yeah.
radiation,
Space is a harsh environment.
and even micrometeoroid impacts.
So tiny little space rocks
Yeah, basically.
hurtling towards your very expensive equipment.
Exact.
And what happens if something breaks down?
Well, that's the problem.
You can't just like call a mechanic.
Millions of miles from Earth repairs are not easy.
So how do we deal with that risk?
Part of it is robust engineering,
Okay.
but it's also about smart design.
Like, what do you mean?
We need systems that can diagnose problems
Okay.
and potentially even repair themselves.
So like self-healing spacecraft
I think AI, okay,
and machine
like
learning
algorithms
that can monitor performance,
Okay.
anticipate problems, adapt to unexpected situations.
So AI-powered space mechanics.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty amazing.
But what about the economic risks?
Right.
Let's say we manage to extract all these resources, bring them back to Earth.
Yeah.
What if the market changes?
That's a big risk.
Like, what if no one wants to buy all this platinum anymore?
Well, the prices of rare earth metals can fluctuate a lot.
Yeah.
Imagine spending billions on an asteroid mining operation, and then the price of platinum crashes.
Right, when you get back.
Right when you're about to sell it.
That would be a disaster.
It'd be a financial catastrophe.
So how do investors protect themselves?
Diversification is key.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on just one resource,
Okay.
mining companies want to find asteroids
With lots of different...
with a variety of valuable materials.
Okay, makes sense. They're also looking at creating new markets for these resources in space.
So not just relying on Earth.
Exactly, reducing our reliance on Earth-based demand.
So it's like having a diversified space stock portfolio.
I like that analogy.
Don't put all your eggs in one asteroid basket.
Exactly.
Okay, but now I'm curious about the legal stuff.
Okay.
Like, who owns all these resources?
That's a great question.
Floating around out in space?
It's a bit of a gray area.
Like finders keepers?
Not quite.
Okay.
There's this treaty, the Outer Space Treaty, signed back in 1967.
Yeah.
It prevents any nation from claiming sovereignty over celestial bodies.
So no one can own the moon
Right.
or an asteroid.
But it doesn't say anything specific about extracting resources.
So there's a loophole.
There's definitely some ambiguity there.
So what's being done about that?
There are lots of discussions and debates about creating a clear legal framework for asteroid mining.
So like space law.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
It is pretty cool.
What are some of the ideas being thrown around?
Well, some people think these resources should be shared by everyone.
Like the whole planet?
Yeah, like a common heritage of humankind,
Okay.
where profits are shared among all nations.
Interesting.
Others think it should be more market-driven, where companies own what they extract.
So like a space gold rush.
Kinda.
Sounds like we need some space lawyers to figure all this out.
We might need a whole new legal system.
Are there any companies or organizations actually trying to do asteroid mining right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, give me an example.
Well, the source mentions Planetary Resources.
Okay.
They were one of the pioneers focused on developing the technology and attracting investment.
So like the Trailblazers?
Yeah, they faced a lot of challenges, but they paved the way for others.
Okay, what about government agencies?
NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission is a good example.
Okay.
It wasn't a mining operation,
Uh-huh.
but it successfully brought back a sample from an asteroid,
Oh, wow.
which proves we can do it.
So we can actually grab a piece of an asteroid.
Bring it back to Earth.
Are there any countries creating policies for this stuff?
Luxembourg is actually a leader in this.
Really?
Yeah, they have a legal framework
Okay.
that encourages private investment in space resources
Wow, so they're trying to become like the hub.
for the asteroid mining industry.
So we've got companies,
Yeah,
governments
countries
taking this seriously.
It's becoming a reality.
It sounds like the space economy is about to take off.
It really does.
Speaking of the future,
Yeah,
does the source talk about what's next for all of this?
it does. It highlights the role of emerging technologies
Okay.
like AI,
Uh-huh.
blockchain,
Oh, wow.
and digital twins.
I've heard of digital twins.
They're virtual models.
of real-world things.
Exactly. In this case, mining projects.
So you can test out different scenarios
Exactly.
and see what might happen.
And make better decisions.
So it's a mix of technology,
Yeah.
investment.
So a little bit of space law.
That will shape the future of asteroid mining.
It's a fascinating time.
It is. It's amazing to think that something that seemed like science fiction
Right.
is now actually possible.
It's incredible.
This has been such a fascinating look at the economics of asteroid mining.
It really is.
So many challenges.
So many possibilities.
But this industry could totally change our relationship with space,
Absolutely.
and even with our own planet.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
And until next time, keep looking up.
And keep exploring.